I bet you won't believe these flowers started off with just one piece of paper. To make the paper daisies, what we need is 2 squares. Each one should be the same size. I'm using 3x3 squares. If you use bigger squares, you will have bigger flowers. If you use smaller squares, you will have smaller flowers. I find that the 3x3 is a good size for the daisies. I will also need 1 piece of yellow paper, and I've cut this to about 1/2 inch by 11 inches. You can make them longer. If you want to have a bigger center, you can use 2 pieces, but I'm simply going to be using 1 for this. For this flower, we are going to be folding our square in half along the points to make a triangle. And then we're going to fold it in half again, like this. And then we're going to fold our top flaps outwards. It's important that you fold the folds out and not over each other. And just change the shape of the flower if you do it the other way, if they both go in the same direction. So you want to make sure they both go backwards so it kind of looks like an airplane when it's folded over. Now it's important to know where your center is. So my center is way down here. So I need to make sure I keep track of that so that I don't lose it. Next, what we're going to do is I'm going to make as far as I can, a petal. I'm going to pull it all the way to the top and all the way down, like so. Now, if you make them shorter, you'll have a smaller flower. I'm pulling them out as far as I can so that my daisies have a long petal on them. And then I'm going to cut this, and I want to make sure I'm cutting down to this bottom here so that the petal can look nice. Now I'm using cardstock, so it's a little bit harder to cut. You can do this with regular white paper, like printer paper. It's just the flowers I find are more robust with cardstock. And I'm going to open this up, and now I have 1 petal for my daisy. And now that I've done a check to make sure that I did this right, I'm going to continue with my second petal. Again, I'm holding my center down, and I'm going to draw a nice petal like this. Now I like to use pencil because it erases and it's easy to hide in the flower if we don't feel like erasing it. But if you use pen, I find it always likes to leave more marks. And now we have 2 petals for our daisy. So I'm quickly going to glue these together. So if you want to, you can curl the leaves a little bit. I'm going to give them a little bit of a curl to make them look less like paper and more like a flower. But you don't need to curl them too much. And I'm just using a 3/8 inch dowel. Oops, my flowers are running away. And now I'm going to glue one on top of the other. And I'm going to try to alternate my leaves so that there's no gaps between them. Okay, so this part is done. Next I'm going to work on the center. So I have my 11-inch strip here. I'm going to fold it in half twice so that my folding process is faster, or my cutting process is faster, I should say. And I'm simply going to cut little slits into my paper here. And you don't want to go all the way through. You want to go about halfway or a little bit more. The thinner you make your cuts, the more fuzzy the inner side of the flower will look. The bigger they are, the less fuzzy it will look. I mean, the choice is yours. I find sometimes it's hard to cut really small slices, but that's okay. And you need to make sure when you're unfolding it, you're cutting this piece here that was at the edge. And I'm just going to give these little bits here an extra cut because they seem to have not cut themselves. I made myself a quilling tool so I can wrap this very quickly, and all this is a dowel with a slice through the center, and I've taped it so that it doesn't fall apart on me. And I'm just going to put this in here like so and roll this around. And now I'm just going to glue this shut. Now for this flower, I'm only using 1 sheet of 11-inch cardstock. But if you want to have a larger center, you can use more than one piece. And now I'm just going to pull out the center petals as my glue is dry and give this a nicer look. And finally, I'm going to glue the center onto my daisy like so. For this, I'm going to use hot glue because I find that hot glue works better to hold on these sort of center bits. I'm just going to put a dab of glue here on the bottom and squish this onto the center of my flower. And now I have a beautiful daisy. And these are some other ones that I made before. And these ones don't have the petals curled, so that you can see the difference, how they look. The ones with the curled leaves look a little bit more realistic, don't they? Now, if you want to add a stem onto your flower so that it's not just standing around and you can put it into a vase, this is the way that I've been doing it recently. And I just grabbed one of my stems, and I have these stems that have like a metal end and then the rest is covered up. So I just grab my pliers and I kind of roll this around so that it turns into a little bit of a circle so that I've got a little bit more space to glue on to my flower. So I've got it, and I'm gonna bend it sort of 90 degrees so that it's standing up. Sorry, it's not beautifully zoomed, but it looks like that. And so I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue this onto my flower with my glue gun, just sort of like so that it stays flat on the back here. Now I know that this doesn't look pretty, and so what we're going to do is while this is drying, we're going to do one more thing here to make this look nicer. Now this doesn't look very pretty behind our flower, and typically you're not going to look behind the flowers, but just because we like to craft and we have lots of supplies, we're going to add a little bit of green at the back to hide that addition onto our stem. And so all I'm doing is I have these 2x2 squares in green cardstock. I'm going to fold them in half twice along the edges here to make it into a triangle. It doesn't matter if it's perfect or not, we're going to be cutting this up anyways. I'm just going to cut this in half, fold this in half. I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to cut this sort of into a circle shape. It doesn't need to be perfect. And then I'm going to just trim off some of this to make it look kind of like a petal, similar to what I've done in my zinnia video, and you can watch that here if you'd like. And I'm going to cut these open, and this isn't going to be perfect. We want it just to have some depth to it so that when we're gluing this together it'll work. And I'm going to now cut through the center. I'm going to make a little bit of a hole here so that we can put this over the back of our flower. And I'm going to fold these on top of each other so that they kind of, I'm actually going to cut this one out a little bit because it's got a little bit too much. I'm just going to fold them on top of each other like this so that they curl around the back of my design here, like this. And so what I'm quickly going to do is I'm going to apply glue, not my glue gun glue, just my regular glue, to these edges so that I can glue them down so that they stick to the back of the flower. Oops. I'm going to curl this around so that it covers the back so that you don't see any of this. I'm just going to hold this for a moment so that it stays in place. And then the back of the flower will be covered in green, and when you're having it in a bouquet, the back of the flower is not going to turn out all ugly looking.
And that's how you make a simple paper daisy with paper, scissors, and glue. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what flowers I should make next. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crafting!